We can adapt and live with many of the difficulties that life faces us with and as individuals, but sometimes we simply want to influence events. As Michael Griffith told us earlier today, how a few like-minded people came together and found strength in numbers. This too is part of the human condition. When we're afraid, angry, or sensing injustice, coming together with others who feel the same provides comfort and strength. It's a term that's been out of fashion for some decades now, as a global culture of competition and individualism has become the driver of social change. But there is still a role for solidarity. There is a power in unity and strength in numbers. If we can organise our efforts through the sight loss community, we will empower each other. So I'm Neil Ward, Head of Advocacy and Communications at Fighting Blindness. And I'm briefly going to say a little bit about how to join friends and influence people. Since the inception of humanity, we have shared our stories to influence and engage with others. It's still the primary way we communicate our ideas and our needs. So please do not be afraid to tell your story. It's the greatest tool we have to make the changes we need to make, one story at a time. In the contemporary world, we're offered many channels of communication. And if we are to tell our stories effectively, we must choose these channels wisely and exploit every opportunity to amplify our voices. In a few moments, we'll hear from a range of voices from within the sight loss community who have taken to the national airwaves with messages pertinent to influence public opinion. It's invigorating to see how many members within our community are now advocating for the visually impaired, sharing their experience in the hope of raising awareness and educating the wider public to make societal change, because society needs to be inclusive. I was shocked to discover that many people feel personally affronted by, if, for example, someone is using a long cane but also looking at their phone. The ill-informed can feel that they are being tricked or duped. Many of you will remember that Fighting Blindness had organised a protest march to Doyle Aaron on the 11th of March 2020. It was one of the first events to be cancelled as the coronavirus loomed ever closer. But the sense of solidarity and togetherness in the build-up was palpable. This was most encouraging, to know that there is a passion within the community to fight for change. Those days will come again. Advocacy is tasked with gaining public support for policy changes that improve and support equality for individuals, in our case for those living with sight loss. It's the act of speaking up, either for oneself or someone else, or giving voice to collective ambitions. All these current situations, tasks, actions, and results require effective communication through the traditional media, as well as social media and the emerging digital technologies. We will see some of the successes of our ambassadors in a few moments, where effective communication has been amplified. But what I'd like to focus on is that when treatments are discovered, we must ensure they are made available. Anything else is simply cruel and unnecessary. We've heard that through the generosity of our supporters and the fundraising efforts of the community, Irish research has contributed to global understanding of sight loss. Such research in universities and laboratories can lead to the pharmaceutical industry yielding life-changing treatments and cures. This is essentially one of the core reasons that Fighting Blindness was established. So it has become vitally important for us that when a cure is established, that it must be accessible to those who are clinically eligible to benefit. We now have the first gene therapy for sight loss being rolled out around the world, but not yet in Ireland. We believe there's 4 Irish citizens have been identified who all share an uncertain future. They have the biallelic RPE65 gene, causing them vision impairment that untreated will likely deteriorate to near complete blindness. 3 are young children, but there is a cure waiting, and it's reimbursed by the NHS across the UK and in a growing number of European countries. Ireland is lagging behind in the implementation of many new treatments, but even in this case, the HSE Drugs Group was set to report early in 2021, but a recommendation is still pending. The BBC, 6 o'clock news and 10 o'clock news featured a news package on the 29th of April explaining the gene therapy Luxturna Luxturna, and the positive impact it has on recently treated patients. We believe it is simply cruel that this approved therapy should be denied Irish citizens. It also makes very little economic sense because the cost of best supported care across a lifetime will far exceed the treatment. It's the exorbitant cost of doing nothing. So we will now hear from James. James is 45. He's a business owner in County Dublin, employing some 20 people. He too could have his sight loss stabilised and vision improved.
Hello, my name's James Kennedy. I'm a 45-year-old guy, as you can see, living in North County Dublin. And for all my life, I've been diagnosed with RP, or almost all my life. When my grandma noticed when I was only 2 that I couldn't see the milk she gave me in a dusky room, I was whisked off to the eye and ear, where I was diagnosed with RP. And, for many years, my parents funded or did their bit with fighting blindness. And I remember collecting money outside a church gate for years. And it was always a story of someday there may be a cure for RP. And that story stayed the same, when I was 10, when I was 20, when I was 30, when I was 40 almost. And it seemed like that there'd never be a day when there may be a cure for my type of sight loss. But that changed, as we all know today. And I have to say, in my own personal experience, I've been very lucky. I went to St. Joseph's in Drumcondra and I learned Braille, all that good stuff. But here I am in my mid-40s, which very functional eyesight, 2 lovely kids, a gorgeous wife, and a dream life, I have to say. So it's funny, though. I mean, I've always been aware of the fact that my eyesight would go at some stage. And I never really focused on that too much because it was in the lap of the gods, if you like. Even though there was research being done, it never really seemed like that research would come in time for me. So about 3 or 4 years ago now, I turned on Netflix and I opened up a program called Unnatural Selection. And it was all about something called gene therapy. So gene therapy, as I found out, can help a number of different people. But unbelievably, there was a small child in that documentary with something called RPE65. And I thought, RP, that sounds similar to what I have. But I watched the documentary. It was very, very inspiring, just amazing. And I remember sitting there thinking, wow, someday, because someday that treatment might be available for my type of RP. So not long after that, my enterprising wife decided, hey, let's get tested privately. Although we were in the system, we decided to jump the queue a little bit, and we sent off to a lab in the US to get tested. And the result came back saying that, hey, there's a chance here that this person might be suitable for a new type of treatment, but we need to do some more tests. One thing led to another. And unbelievably, today I'm sitting here possibly on only one of 4 people that we've so far found which may be suitable for a treatment called Luxturna. So although it's, RP hasn't really impeded me significantly in any way in my life, of course, I am anxious about the future. I have my family to support. We have a very good lifestyle. But the anxiety that comes with the thought of losing what you have and how many more years you have to work, it does a number on you, I'll be straight, no matter how stoic you try to be about it. And, that in combination with hearing loss in my case has been, over the last few years, a real worry. And it was really quite transformational to learn that there may be some sort of path forward for me other than continuing loss of senses. And it had a big impact in 2 ways. Like, one was I had gone into, in truth, a bit of a depression about what was happening as my condition had progressed. I was noticeable the progression in my daily life. I could do slightly less than I was able to with each passing year. And it was slightly bashing into more things and, finding it harder. And when I thought that was just it for me, it was difficult to understand. But once I understood that there may be some treatment that really transformed things for me, it got me out of my depression. I really got enthusiastic about finding some sort of solution. And that's where, I've, with help from the Matter, Professor Keegan, we're now in a situation that, along with 3 others so far, we could actually start curing this disease in Ireland. So that's where it turns into a different type of challenge. Whereas before it was in the lap of the gods, now it's in our own lap as to whether or not we bring Luxturna to Ireland. And this also plays with your outlook a little bit. It's gone from something which I had no control over to something that we have total control over. And now I'll admit to some frustration in that if I was born almost anywhere else in Europe, we'd already, along with the other 3 people who are suitable for this treatment, be teed up to receive that treatment. And it's especially sort of ironic in a way, given that fighting blindness and in Ireland has been a leader in many ways in funding this type of research, that we're not as yet providing that to myself and the other people who can benefit from it. So it's both exciting, exhilarating. It's interesting. It would be very cool to be, one of the first 4 people to be cured of blindness, as I would describe it. And I'd love to maybe come back, do another video next year and tell you what it's like to actually be able to receive the treatment.
Thank you, James. Thank you for your candid views. James was also interviewed by Claire Byrne on RT Radio 1 at the end of August, and there's been a steady growth in media interest since the broadcast, amplifying this message. But now we will hear a very different story. Jake Ternent from County Durham in the northeast of England was the first person in the UK to receive Luxturna. When the story of sight-saving gene therapy gained media attention, Jake was a stalwart in propagating the benefits of how such a treatment had changed his life. He performed on a tight media schedule, capped with recording his story for BBC One's flagship national news programmes. Jake has kindly recorded a video especially for us today, and he always offers his voice to our cause whenever we seek his assistance. So let's hear from Jake Ternent.
Hello everyone, my name is Jake Ternent. I am 25 years old. I live in the United Kingdom, in England, in the northeast of England. I live in Durham. And over the past 18 months or so, I have been privileged and honoured to have Luxturna, which is a gene therapy eye treatment for the condition retinitis pigmentosa 65, which is the specific gene which causes the disease. This surgery has been simply incredible. I mean, I went through my life expecting to lose my vision at the ages of, between 30 to 40, sorry. And it was something which, scared me as a child. I'm sure it would scare anyone. My vision was deteriorating slowly through my teens into my 20s. And if it wasn't probably for this treatment, I don't know if I would have had vision for much longer. Now, growing up was a very difficult thing, being in school and stuff, wearing glasses and not being able to sort of see at dark times or see with much peripheral vision or anything like that. Just a little bit of central vision, but not much compared to somebody with normal sight. So to have treatment which can improve pretty much every facet of vision, improve obviously your physical health in terms of your eyesight, but also improve your mental health, give you a confidence boost and think, do you know what? I'm looking forward to the next day because I don't know what I'm going to see different from what I saw the previous day. And that was something that, again, is as a child, doing years of research in London, about 16 years of research before I found anything like this. I found out about anything like this, was something which, it wasn't something ever attainable. It wasn't reachable. It wasn't an end goal. It wasn't anything like that. I always done research for the fact that it would help a child or adult in the future, and not help myself. So I never imagined in my lifetime that this treatment would become available. It's something which has changed my life. My family have noticed. They've, seen me see different things. They've been amazed with some of the things I have seen compared to what I used to see. That my vision is not stabilized, but it has increased. It has got better than it ever has been before. They first treated my right eye, which is my weakest eye. This was in case any side effects or anything like that. That went smoothly. They then had the pandemic hit, unfortunately. And then earlier this year, they treated my left eye. So I had my right eye done in January of 2020, and this left eye done in March of 2021. And, over the first sort of 2 months with the right eye, after it recovered and stuff, after the surgery, I was able to use my phone with my right eye. I was able to read text with my right eye, which, wasn't something that I'd done in the past because it was so weak. And it was, as I'm sure you can imagine, no matter what age you are, whether you're a child or whether you're an adult, it's just something you pinch yourself and think, how have I just seen that? Or how have I seen this or whatever? So it was just, mesmerized and stuff. And I believe that the benefits and quality of life change is like astronomical in terms of numbers. It may seem small in terms of data and other things like that, but for this treatment to be given to someone who probably will lose their sight, obviously everyone's an individual, but between the ages of, 30, 40, maybe even younger, and to have vision at some level until a lot older is something I think which would benefit anybody, man, woman, child or adult. I have, I've spoken to other chaps who've had the treatment, two gentlemen from England, and they're a bit older than me. And they've said that they've seen improvement. Their vision was a lot worse than mine because the condition had deteriorated a lot. So they were, saying, praising the stuff. And I think we're all just very thankful that this treatment has come around, really, because, like 2015, 16, wasn't anything about this. Fast forward 5 years later, boom, I've had it. It's crazy. I'm just, so grateful for the fact that we've had it approved in the United Kingdom, and I think that everywhere should be able to access it by their health service, and because it really does. I'm not just saying this; it really does benefit you. Like, it's changed my life. I'll go even deeper. I'll go personal. So since I was little, about 15 or 14. I was on antidepressants, because I was scared of losing my vision, as anyone would be. During the summer of 2020, after having the first eye done, I managed to get myself off of the antidepressants because I wasn't scared about losing my vision anymore. It just shows the mental impact as well as the physical impact, that it can make me have so much confidence. Like, every day now, I'm happy to wake up and go outside and see something new because I never had that before. And I thought that the things I was seeing before the operation would be the last things I would see, because things were getting bad. So I wholeheartely believe that, this treatment should be available for everyone. It really should. And, as a person in England who, has benefited so much from this improvement, like in terms of color vision, peripheral vision, central vision, even I think it's helped with my short-sightedness. I really think it's given me such a big boost in terms of my eyesight. It gives me hope that my vision will stay around, to when people sort of tend to lose their sight as they're older in life. And it's such a big boost and such a incredible thing to have in our lifetime, to have this treatment available. And if it can help anyone just a little bit, even just stabilize their vision so they have that vision for a lot longer than what they would have, I think that is 100% a better quality of life than not having it and losing the vision at 20 or 30 years old, because it's scary. Imagine sitting in a room and slowly, as time goes on, someone's just got a little dimmer switch and they're turning it down and turning it down and turning it down and turning it, and then all of a sudden it's gone. that's what it was like for me. It was starting to get darker and darker, and it was a slow process. So it was pretty much like torture, really. It's just getting darker and darker and darker. And then, obviously, if I hadn't had this treatment, it probably would have kept getting darker, and things would have become more blurry and undefinable. And if this can have somebody where you can go the opposite and you can turn it back around and brighten their life up again, it can have such a big impact on them. Again, wholeheartedly believe that if the treatment is available, it should be available for the people who deserve it and who need it, because it will change their life for the better. One of the most incredible things for me personally is being able to see at a football game. So I'm a big Newcastle United fan. And for example, on Sunday, with my glasses on, I was able to see, so I sit on the left-hand side of the pitch, closest to the corner flag on the left-hand side. And the camera crew and Sky, who were broadcasting the game, were on the pitch on the far right-hand side from me, on the opposite side of the pitch. And I was able to see the lights they use for the camera, for the cameras, so people can see the presenters clearly. I was able to see bodies, although it wasn't, people's faces or anything. That is something which I'd never seen before. I'm able to follow the linesman up and down towards the halfway line. And before that, I couldn't see him when he was at the corner flag. And I sat about 6 rows from the front. So I was sitting close enough where these days I can see him down to the halfway line. I can see the crossbar at the far end of the pitch. That is something incredible. I can see the crossbar closest to me. I can see, the whole goal frame, the net and everything, which again was something which wasn't ever attainable, ever reachable, just for the fact of my lack of vision. I'm even, I was like, about 20 feet away from Harry Kane, and I could make out his facial features and everything like that. It was incredible. It's like I said once before, back in August, it was just, it was almost like you could cry, because it wasn't something that you'd ever seen before. And football is one of the biggest things in my life, and being able to see players, being able to see the dugouts, being able to see the tunnel, just being able to see, where they do the sort of the pre-match presentation type thing, where the players walk along and shake hands and stuff. That is something which I never seen before, and now I can. And it really is. Although it's a small thing and a mundane thing, because it's a sport and stuff, it's a big part of my life, and I'm so grateful for the fact that has such a big impact on my enjoyment of that sport.
Thank you, Jake, for all that you've done to raise awareness and promote the benefits of gene therapy for sight loss. Your honest and open approach is indeed the way to win friends and influence people. You will have won many friends here in Ireland today, I'm sure. James and Jake's stories are a stark contrast in the difference in healthcare approach between the UK and Ireland. And as our chairman, Professor Buckley, said earlier, the fight goes on. We're running a few minutes late, but we're going to keep going. One of the things I'd just like to talk about is World Sight Day, getting the message out. World Sight Day is a global event celebrated the second Thursday in October. And this year's message was Love Your Eyes, to encourage people all around the world to take an eye test to protect their eyesight. This year, Fighting Blindness joined with sponsors Roche Pharmaceuticals Ireland to produce a series of videos with Fighting Blindness ambassadors Patrina Finn, Conor Lennon and Gillian Stafford, who all told their stories. The public message was that sight loss is not binary, but a spectrum, and many people experience visual impairment differently. Also, that research helps us better understand vision impairment, and this can lead to treatments and cures. Every small improvement or stability of vision is valuable. These short films were shared across social media. We are going now to see the film made by Conor Lennon, one of our ambassadors.
I got diabetes when I was 9 years old, and then from there I had diabetic retinopathy. Then last June I got a good bang in the head, and from there I lost quite a lot of vision. At that point I was made legally blind. Imagine looking through mesh. Say over here I'd have this massive tunnel of vision where I can see out and I can almost grab something, but then in certain points I'd have nothing, or it'd be pure black. It's not you're fully blackout blind or you're fully sighted. Like, if you can't do what's required to get by, I can do this, and this, but there's a point where it's not enough, and that's the point where you're blind. There's a lot of good things with blindness. Of course, I'd love to be sighted again, but there's so much there for it. Everything that you say is something that you can only do with your sighted, you'll find a way to do it not sighted. There's nothing I couldn't do now that I could do 2 years ago, bar drive. With fighting blindness, it was great that it was different ways of support. They've been brilliant the whole way through it. Like.
That was Conor Lennon. Also, double gold Paralympian cyclist Katie Georgeton-Levy, alongside Conor and Gillian Stafford, helped to spread the word in the Irish Times on the 12th of October. While Paralympian sprinter Orla Comerford joined News Talk Radio's The Pat Kenny Show on the 14th of October to spread the fighting blindness message.
Today is World Sight Day, and we're joined in studio by Irish Paralympian Orla Comerford to talk about her event and about fighting blindness. That's the Irish charity supporting those suffering with sight loss, as well as working towards curing blindness. Orla, good morning and welcome.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me on. People think, when you're blind, that you're either fully sighted or that you see nothing, and visual impairment is definitely something that's along a spectrum. There's a whole range of people living in Ireland with visual impairments that mean different sort of levels of vision, and for me that kind of means, like, I have quite poor central vision. I have something called Stargardt, so I've degeneration in the centre of my vision.
Now, the importance of World Sight Day, it's obviously those who are unsighted or partially sighted need as much help as they can, both in research and so on.
Absolutely.
But also for the people who are sighted, it's amazing how something like glaucoma, for example, can ambush people.
It can, absolutely. And I think that's where fighting blindness is a great kind of resource for people. It's an Irish charity who do phenomenal work in research globally and, put a huge amount into supporting people with visual impairments. But they also do a lot to kind of try and educate the public on their own eye health. And, visual impairment actually affects far more people in Ireland than you would imagine. And that, like you said, something like that can just really creep up. And people, like we were discussing before we came on air, like especially nowadays being on their computers at home so much, like people's eye health is something that they don't often think about. And so fighting blindness can be a great resource to kind of learn about how to keep on top of your eye health and how to monitor that and to make sure that you're...
And the theme of today is basically get a test.
Absolutely.
Don't wait till you're really suffering. Check your eye health every year.
Yeah, and I think your eyesight is something you take for granted because you don't think about it. But I think then when you're faced with something that affects it, you're kind of you almost realise how much you didn't notice. You took it for granted.
Also on World Sight Day, Fighting Blindness teamed up with sponsors Specsavers to launch a report on how Irish eye care had been affected by the pandemic. This was entitled The State of Ireland's Eye Health 2021. The report highlighted that eye care services in Ireland were withdrawn, reduced or restricted in response to the pandemic. This led to thousands of missed eye tests, delays in treatment and extended waiting times for patients. This must be addressed. We now have a short video from Carol Hickey, Chairman of Specsavers Ireland, to tell us a little bit more.
My name is Carol Hickey and I'm the Chairman of Specsavers here in Ireland. At Specsavers, we are proud partners of Fighting Blindness and are delighted to have the opportunity to speak to you today about the work we have done in recent months, looking at the impact of the pandemic on eye health through our report, The State of Ireland's Eye Health 2021. In caring for eye health, so much has happened since March 2020. Missed appointments, huge backlogs, families spending hours gazing at screens through lockdowns. And that's not to mention older family members too often isolated in their own homes or care homes for too long periods. There's no doubt that this has been a tough 20 months for all of us. Looking at our industry in Ireland's eye health, our report paints a stark picture of the challenging context we have been living and working in. Community eye care has shown great resilience, and despite the challenges this pandemic has wrought, we continue to provide frontline healthcare that for many can be life-changing and sight-saving. With 61 Specsavers stores across Ireland, As still in most communities, we are proud to step up and play our part, going the extra mile to serve our communities during the time of crisis. As we know, in response to the pandemic, eye care services in Ireland were withdrawn, reduced, restricted, and this has led to thousands of missed eye tests, delays in treatment, and extended waiting times for patients. The huge backlog will require additional time and resource to clear, results in substantial costs for our health and social services in years to come. And most importantly, sight-threatening conditions that were not identified or managed in a timely way, which may have led to vision loss or even blindness. A report presents an alarming picture of the impact of the coronavirus. It highlights the unprecedented opportunity for highly skilled optometrists and dispensing opticians in Ireland to reduce preventable sight loss and so help reduce the pressure on the already overburdened HSE. The delays in the treatment of eye disease and missed appointments will also have a considerable financial impact on the economy, but more worryingly, the real cost is to people's sight. Before the pandemic, the annual economic cost of sight loss and blindness in Ireland by 2020 was estimated at €2.67 billion. The additional backlog of eye care services caused by the pandemic is likely to impose significant additional costs for people with sight-threatening conditions as they live with a greater risk of falls, fear of further sight loss, productivity losses, and reduced quality of life while waiting. The report also shows us that we are likely to see a surge of referrals to ophthalmology services, which are already stretched with a 19% drop in the number of eye examinations provided, equating to 123,700 fewer eye examinations, and with more than 49,000 people on a waiting list for a hospital appointment or procedure. Worryingly, the eye report also highlighted that as of May 2021, there were over 8,000 children on ophthalmology waiting lists. However, thankfully, the retina screen team worked incredibly hard to clear that backlog by September this year. However, despite the difficulties, there have been positive changes as new ways of working have been developed at pace along the entire patient journey. Rapid access referral pathways with regional eye hospitals and ophthalmologists enabled the fast tracking of patients in need of immediate intervention. New image systems were introduced along with increased use of virtual clinics and telemedicine. And these innovations all have helped to prevent sight loss during COVID-19 emergency measures, and we would like to see them continue. Specsavers and Fighting Blindness are passionate about ensuring that no one needlessly loses their sight. We are all doing all we can in these difficult times to reach the people most at risk with crucial eye health messages. And we want millions of people to know that a regular eye test can help save your sight. But there's so much more still to do. There are even bigger challenges ahead. From the thousands of people who missed appointments, greater numbers will present in community optometry and ophthalmology with more serious and more advanced vision problems. This will have a huge impact on our health service and on the economy. Changes we implemented now will secure long-term sustainability of patient-centred care. The optometry profession has an unprecedented opportunity now to make a positive difference. And by working together, the 1,000 highly skilled optometrists and dispensing opticians in Ireland can reduce preventable sight loss and its impact, and so help reduce the pressure on the already overburdened HSE. A community-based approach to eye care that embraces advances in diagnostic and communication technology offer our patients a convenient, more accessible service that will improve efficiencies and clinical outcomes all round. Community optometry is ready to take on this challenge with energy, confidence and commitment, with highly skilled and technological enabled clinicians saving sight and changing lives for the better. At Specsavers, we are proud to play our part, and we look forward to working alongside our colleagues, industry experts and the wider health colleagues in delivering the best care in eye health services with people of Ireland. Thank you.